What's up, everyone? How you guys, the Gals, doing? Welcome to the show. I got a special guest on here today, Smash One Percenter, with the Pagans, and he's going to be talking about that interview that was done with that Skid guy. He's out on bad, and there is a lot that Smash wants to address from that interview. And this is one thing that I've always tried to tell all these other channels is one, know what you're doing when you interview these out bad people, and two, ask clubs. Go, if you don't got a contact to a club, go to either myself or Black Dragon. We'll get you in contact with them. That way this kind of stuff don't come back and bite you like this interview did. And we'll be right back, and we're going to be right here with Smash.
James Hollywood, living the dream. From the open road to the yellow's code. Breaking news coming hot, about to explode. Insane throttle, burning up the night, full on rebellion, ready for the fight. Wheels keep spinning, no fear, no chains. Hollywood's calling, pumping through your
Okay, we're here with Smash. I'm going to let him introduce himself, tell you a little bit about himself and what he's here for. What's up, Smash?
What's going on, brother? Thanks for having me on.
No problem. I love that shirt, man. Charlie Kirk right there, man. He was a true patriot, as well as an incredible human being, man. So that's an awesome shirt.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you know what? Just being on here goes for exactly what he stands for, open dialogue.
Open dialogue, man. And I love that you're giving your side of the story out on this, because I've been getting a lot of, let's just say, people contacted me after this interview. And I really feel it's important for clubs to be able to get their side of the story out. And that's one of the things that it's really hard to do for clubs, because they usually don't want to, go out in public and stuff. But this guy really put everybody on, Front Street right there. And I'm glad I got somebody over here that will be able to give that side. You were actually a founding member of the Jackals. I know he brought that up. So go ahead, man. Let's hear about you.
Yeah, so I'll just go back to the beginning, man. Started back in 2012. Me and a couple of buddies wanted to get our own thing going. We started our own club called the Devil's Guardians. We were just doing our thing. Very, very novice at the time. Knew a couple of guys here and there. Didn't follow the proper etiquette, I guess you could say. And I ended up getting my ass handed to me, and learned the right way. I get a phone call one night from a stand-up fellow, and he says, you're the president? Yeah, that's me. He's like, why don't you come and have a talk with me? So I went and had a talk, brought me down to another room. So that was that was the beginning of my outlaw career, I guess you could say. I started with the support club. I learned the rules, learned the ethics, the etiquette, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, things of that nature. And then I ended up getting myself jammed up. A couple years ago, I ended up getting jammed up, and they came at me pretty good. Did my time. Obviously, when you're on paper, you got to stay away. So I was away for a couple of years. Did a little bit of time inside, then I walked the rest off. Then after I walked off, you still got to keep your distance. Because at the end of the day, when you're a 1%, when you're part of the 1% world, you don't want to bring any added attention that you don't already need. It's already there. So, I stayed a civilian. I kept in touch with a lot of the guys, a lot of the Pagans, some of the support club guys at the time from the Steel Wheels, always treated me good. So, anyhow, after that, little mix up, I guess you could say, went on, and some of the guys that were in the Pagans, they had left for, whatever their reasons were. It wasn't my business. And we were all out talking one night. So over the course of the 2 years, we ended up starting to talk about the Jackals. So there, at the very beginning, there was 12 of us, and that's kind of where Skids' acclimate story comes into effect.
The Jackals is a cool sounding name, man. Wasn't the Jackals out of what was that with that Charlie Sheen out of Arizona, Beyond the Law? I always liked that name for some reason, man.
You know what? I'll be honest with you, Hollywood. I don't know. At the end of the day, it came down to a vote. We all were like, "Hey, here's some names. Here's some flags we could fly. Let's pick it." And it's what we pulled, and that's what we went with. And it was a great thing.
It's a cool sounding name, man. I really like that as a freaking club name. That was awesome. But go ahead.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, there is another club called the Jackals. They're out of somewhere in I believe. I believe. I believe it's in the Midwest. I may be, stand corrected if I am wrong. So anyhow, we were going good. We were going good for about 2 years. I know he said there was pagan issues, this, that, and the third. Every now, the pagans know about us. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. It wasn't so much at first they were trying to shut anybody down. It was more along the lines of, you're not rocking 1% whatsoever. Two, we're not happy that you guys just came out of the blue and started this stuff and started trying to, come over here and come over there. And, it's just the way it rolled.
That's with most big 1%er clubs. It's a respect that they've earned. I think the Pagans have been around since '59, and that's something that they had to put the work into, was to get that diamond patch. And yeah, I know here in the Midwest, same with the black and white, they earn that 1%er patch, so they don't want you wearing it. And I completely understand where that was coming from.
Without a doubt, so if we, fast forward a little bit, we'll go into the whole, when I forget his name, Skids, he comes along, he ended up joining, he was with the Northeast Riders. He was with a couple of clubs. I know he was with the Northeast Riders for a bit. I don't know, there was some speculative conversation that he had to stay with them for a year because when he was inside one time, they have thrown something along that nature. Now, again, it's speculative. That's what I've been told, not directly out of his mouth. So that's kind of where we stand on that. So as far as the Jackals go, he took like one guy with him, and he was only with us for maybe 3 months. We were actually having he was trying to throw his own birthday party and told the cops he tells the cops where it was.
Why would he tell the cops that?
If you watch his own interview, he's best friends with them. Now, don't get me wrong. Law enforcement have a job to do, without a doubt. And nobody denouncing that. Nobody's defaming or anything, and I've run into numerous cops with the patch on. They've always given us nothing but the utmost respect. You always have that one or two young guys that are, I'm a cop and I'm a boss.
Yeah, the new jacks and stuff.
Yeah. So anyways, this birthday party thing goes down, and he was never a diamond of the Jackals, ever. So if you were a diamond of the Jackals, we actually almost in the same manner as the Pagans, we replicated a lot of stuff. We did. We were basically it was a sideways diamond, and it had a special Roman numeral for tens. And it was,
so you weren't out there trying to rock a diamond like he's saying.
Yes and no. So the presidents rocked that. It was a diamond turned sideways with a Norse mythology 10 in it, is what it was. He was never a diamond anywhere at all. He was just a regular member, just hanging out, trying to have a good time. And we did. We had some really good times. But yeah, he didn't find anything. He was a member, like I said, a couple of months.
Mhm.
And then for different reasons, we actually had a meeting one night. Funny story. We all met at my house and we're
Because
talking.
what he said in his interview, Smash, was he's the one who brought a lot of people in.
Now, so we had this big meeting at my house. And in our, it was the founders and the presidents, and it was about him and his behavior and some other things that had gone on. And I'll never forget it because there was a brother that was here, and names don't matter. But I have a purebred wolf, and he's standing next to the door. He's like, "That thing's gonna freaking eat me, man." I'm like, "Nah, you'll be all right." We were dying, we were laughing, and at that night, that's when we cut him loose. It took his cut was returned. It was all done in peaceful dialogue. It wasn't like anybody threatened him or went after him or he didn't get violent. It was like, yo, you ain't the fit for us. You know,
Mhm.
you're just a little too much. It's time to part ways. So at that time,
When you say a little too much, what was his behavior like that? Because I think this is a teaching lesson for a lot of the clubs out there, especially new ones, when a member could bring heat on you or eyes on you. It's best to get together and say, you know what, you're just not for us.
so basically everywhere we were, we went to a bar. He is always very, he had to make it a point that he's there. It was always there is no like civility with him. He was always trying to have a good time. You can't take that away from nobody. He was too much of a risk. He was too
Mm.
much of a risk of jeopardizing everybody's future for nothing but stupidity. You know, like I said, we all have our proclivities. Then now some still do present. He liked to play with the bag sometimes. And when he
Mm.
did, you could tell because he was he was off the rails, straight up, you know. And we parted ways. I don't have a clue of what happened to him for a few months. Then all of a sudden, maybe 2 months later, he pops up as a pagan. And it's funny.
Now you said 2 months, but he claims he prospected for. Go ahead.
Now that's the funny part. So when you ask any prospect for the pagans, okay, you don't ask how many months do you have, how many hours, it's how many days. And
Mm.
all pagan prospects start out at I'm on day one, working on day two. I'm on
Right.
day two, working on. You're always working on the next thing, and that's what it is. And when you go through the real pagan, the true pagan prospecting period, which everyone in my case and in my areas, I've seen it. They always do. Me myself, I prospected a total of 140, or I'm sorry, 132 days. Then I screwed up, got smacked in the back of the head, and I got busted down to a blue coat for 10 days. And then I got my colors back. It's with the Pagans, it's all about history. We're very, very, very hardcore with history. A lot of
Mm.
people are like, "Oh, I'm a biker." It doesn't matter whatever they are. In my nation, as a pagan, our history is the one of the most, if not the most top priority there is. You know, if you were to ask him what the P stands for, he probably couldn't tell you. I will. It's professionalism. You
Mhm.
always act with professionalism. Like tonight, me and you talked, obviously, like you said, you reached out to somebody to make sure it was okay for me and you to chat. We're chatting, but I come to you with another pagan knowledge. Proper pagan, proper pagan preparation is for proper performance. He was just all over the place. I think he was a pagan. I'm going to assume at the most a year.
Okay.
A year. I'm looking at some of these things he's talking about. Back in 2020, I was around in 2020. Never seen him as begging. I never even seen him before. You
Mhm.
know, uh, I hadn't even heard of him or seen him until he became a jackal, and that was it. Um, and then I look at his time. He's saying 30 months and things of that nature. I had one of my guys. He went away Thanksgiving of 2023, 22. I apologize. Thanksgiving Day 22, and he was actually there when my guy got taken into custody.
Mhm. Well, that's
So
one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to talk to somebody with the club is because when you're talking about Pennsylvania, you are talking about a storied history of the Pagans in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and all that kind of stuff, and Long Island. And when you start putting yourself out there as an expert in that type of area, that's when you're going to get a lot of older guys like myself that say, hey, wait a second here, man. Now you're going after a club that's storied with, like you said, behind the scenes. You think you're Sonny Barger or something. You're not. Okay.
yep.
And there's a lot of backstory to you. And that's why I think it's real important for anybody that's want to interview these type of people that know what the hell they're doing. I'm always open to people reaching out to me if you need, help with getting in touch with somebody to verify stories, because it's better to verify than to go through something like this, because the Pagans, they do have a long history, and they don't need to be, get a black eye because I'm an idiot like this. But go ahead.
Yeah, and it's actually funny. Right before Riz, we were talking. So the actual saying, and the only reason I say this is because in his mind, when he's watching this, I want him to see if he even realizes what I said is 100% incorrect. It's proper preparation prevents poor pagan performance. That is one of our mottos. Again, it
Mhm.
goes back to our history. It goes back to the culture of who we are. It goes back to, what Dirty Lou Dobbins started on the fundamentals for the Pagans Motorcycle Club. And unfortunately, Skids couldn't fit into that. You know,
Mhm.
we discussed some good video dialogue that you were
Let's just say, yeah, I seen that, and you know what? I got to give the Pagans hardcore praise on that one. When I seen that video, I was like, man, that's gonna hit this club hardcore. And we're not gonna show no video because
nah,
God forbid they never let us back on. But let's just say, and I don't care what you do in your own bedroom, okay? I really don't. But it was just something else that had to do with a man, if you will. I'll keep it that way. I'll keep it clean. And being or a so-called enforcer of a major 1% club, you would not want that anywhere out near anybody. If because the way we look at that kind of stuff, was he even an enforcer?
an enforcer, no. As
Because
far
that's what.
as far as any title that he did hold, I mean, you obviously have some pictures that were approved for me to put on.
Mhm.
He he didn't hold. He, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as my recollection serves me, he was an R. He was a regular member. He may have been at the most a sergeant at arms for a very, very brief period of time.
Mhm.
And once again, you know,
Because for those that don't know, sergeant at arms and enforcers are two different damn things right there. It just sounded like he was trying to bump himself up to something that he wasn't. But go ahead.
no, no. Listen, that's what it comes down to. And you know what? And this came. What I'm going to tell you, this comes from two gentlemen actually who I respect dearly. Um, they're definitely brothers, without a doubt. Uh, and I would hold, the highest respect in regards for both of them. They're just amazing people. And at the end of the day, everybody, they're like, oh, I'm a pagan. I'm going to run around. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Blah, 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 blah. And it's not like that. It's not we go around and, beat people up and all that kind of stuff. It's a camaraderie. It's a brotherhood. We handle stuff around our neighborhoods. We help everybody out, and what he made it out to be more like a bunch of savage idiots running around like idiots.
Mhm.
And it's not the way it is. You know,
Well, it's
there's
not
rules.
professional whatsoever. And,
Exactly.
here you are claiming to be from an area where, there was a famous pagan out of there was Gorilla, and you're trying to put yourself on the same level as a Gorilla or a Conan. And it just don't, and then you just see some of the comments on that. It just don't sit well with people like that.
No, and again, back to these two gentlemen I was talking about. I'll never forget the day that I earned my patch and I earned my colors, and I got the call. It was I'll never forget the day. I got the call. It was get up here now. I'm like, oh damn, what did I do now? You know what I mean?
That's the
And
first thought as a probate or a prospect in your
you
chant.
got him. It's like shit. What did I what did I screw up? And I was gifted my colors then. And that's the way we looked at it. You have to earn them. And they're gifted to you. And like
Mhm.
anything else, you can always lose what you earn. And
Right.
shortly after that video, we'll say he was definitely no longer with us.
Hmm.
And I know personally for a fact that his colors were cleaned.
Hmm.
They're no longer with us.
Now, was
So
there any truth to it that he brought all these jackals and put the jackals in a
no,
situation where they were failing, or you know what I mean?
no, no. So at the end of the day, we knew we weren't failing, but we ultimately knew that it wasn't going to last forever. And I'm a founding member. I mean, you feel free to post the pictures that you have. You
Mhm.
were given permission, and no, not at all. We knew that the day was going to come. We were either going to patch over or we were going to close shop. It was just like that because we all still the ones that were pagans before or support clubs or friends. We still had our friends and our brothers that we talked to. And they were like, there's better ways that we can go about this. So at the end of the day, for him to sit there and say that a founding member, and I know exactly who he's talking about, sits there and says, "Oh, he was going behind everybody's back, and he was using this as a ploy," and he would. It wasn't nothing like that. At the end of the day, shit flops.
That you fall out.
At the end of the day, it's like the acquisition of a company. You can either fold or you can grow. You can become part of a larger corporation and
Mhm.
make not only yourself but every one of you better. And if for some reason that corporation isn't for you, I'll say again, if that corporation ain't for you, doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean anything. It just means it wasn't for you. He brought one guy with him. One. All right. You can look him up too. It's a guy named Patrick Griffin. You
Mhm.
can Google him. Just Google a guy who left his cut with a loaded firearm in Walmart in a toy aisle
Oh my
because
god.
he was stealing tools or something, and he got caught. That was the only guy that he brought with him. When we officially shut the Jackals down, he said something like, oh, damn it. He said something like 60 people. We were at 83 members when we officially shut the Jackals down.
That's pretty
And
good size right there.
yes, yep, yep. It was a good size, and it wasn't a bad thing. If anything, it was a great learning experience for a lot of the new guys that had, they loved to ride. They always wanted to be around the 1% club, but they didn't know how to approach it. They didn't know how to properly speak to somebody. They were always too worried about it, or they were just going about it the wrong way. So, in a way, it was a good thing for a lot of guys who may or may not have jumped up to become a pagan. They were able to learn some of the rules because a lot of what we did, we followed. Right? We followed the pagans. You know, um, not like we copied the Constitution, to the letter or nothing like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, so he brought one guy with him. When he came aboard, it wasn't. I think he said there was like what, like 5 or 6 or something like that. when we first
Well,
started,
he also mentioned that, well, we tried to make Philly come back. I was like, he wasn't a part of the Philly chapter, was he?